security by design?
Yes, so hello everybody. So I'm Julien. I'm technical expert at Wallix, French company, which is editing solution in privileged access management. And the presentation I'm going to offer you today is less technical than some you may have attended previously. It's more conceptual one and more personal opinion that I hope is shared by most of the people here in the room and even in the conference, Insomnihack. So, the first thing I wanted to notice, and I think everyone will agree on this point, is that by design, of course, no system is unbreakable. I think everyone will agree on that. Every system has always a flaw, even if it's correctly hidden or correctly patched, but it's something that everyone has to got in mind, is that no system is 100% sure. But that said, does not mean that we have to make no effort or less efforts and keep the front door opened. Usually we say that the only way to enforce maximum security is to be completely offline. And even by being completely offline, we know, and history has taught us, that it is not 100% sure that even when offline, you will not be hacked or breached or break into. And major events like Stuxnet happened, even if the target systems were not reachable from outside. Just bringing in foreign devices like a USB key containing malicious software or anything is enough to jeopardize devices, software, or applications, even if they are not connected to the wide internet. That's just to put the case. So here on this slide, I wanted to explain that IT and digital technology is at least a two-tier relationship, meaning that on one side we have vendors, software creators, IT companies who are providing software and IT in general, whose goal is to satisfy customers and not to impede them use the product the company is creating and selling. So it's obvious that for most people, not here of course, but for most people, security is often a pain in the foot, I would say. So on one side you have the vendors who are eager to satisfy their customers and users, and on the other side you have the users, customers, who wish to only one thing, is to use quickly and easily the product they have just purchased or acquired if it's a company. And usually they do not wish to be bothered by too much securities, too many questions asked before you use the product. For instance, change your passwords, use a strong password you have to memorize, and so on. So if that's precisely where the security by design challenge is lying, because we have to make a compromise. Vendors have to make a compromise. Users too. To be able to bring the security level up without impeding users going on using the software, the application, devices, so let them use the product as easily as before, but with small compromising. And I am speaking about security measures to be taken into account by both parties, at least. If we take a look to the major cyber events, cyber attacks, which have occurred recently, my personal opinion is that vendors, companies creating software, can't afford anymore to not take security into account at the early stages. I mean, when they are creating products, where they are designing new software, new IoT, or anything you can think about, which will be connected to the internet, smartphones and anything else. I think that, and that's what I call security by design. So by design, I mean that currently, even if you have security in mind, Developers have security in mind, of course, but usually we know that the developers want to secure more their software, their code, and so on, but usually it's not something that comes first when designing the specifications of a software, and that's where exactly the vendors and the users have to make efforts to make this topic, I mean security, become maybe not the first one, but at least second in the when you want to design something, when you want to create a new software on your device. So what can we expect from this concept, security by design? So we expect to be a true commitment on personal data securization and also provide a protection from various cyber attacks, I mean intrusions, breaking into systems, and so on. So what does that mean exactly? Having in mind that vendors have taken into account security by design, meaning that when they have created the device you have just purchased, when they have designed the software you have just acquired, if you know that as a user, as a security-aware user, that the vendor, this company has taken security seriously when creating the device or the product, it's quite a peace of mind for you. But on the other hand, like I said, the relationship is at least two-tier. I mean, there is the vendor, there is the user, and the responsibility is shared between both parties. Meaning that the users have to strengthen its security, the security of the device or the application he has just bought, but the vendor has to guide his user to provide him with security measures, maybe not compel him, but guide him really strongly to try to make him aware of what risk it will pose for him and even for the rest of the world, like we will see just after. If he's using weak credentials, weak security ciphers, and so on. So a vendor, I think that an application or a device will have to kind of force, or not compel because it's too strong, but force the user to use strong credentials and strong security measures for its own sake and for world's sake too. That's why I mean that the notion of responsibility is shared by both parties. When we can take, for example, the access points, the cameras. Usually, when you buy some this kind of devices or software, there is nothing that will force you to change the default passwords or to strengthen your Wi-Fi key, or even you can even find some access points that are still provided with WEP keys, which is completely it's completely nonsense nowadays. Nowadays that we know that even a laptop is able to crack a web key. It's for me, my opinion is really that it's complete nonsense to go on providing such weak software, weak credentials, and not force users, because we are afraid that the users will go away from you, from your company, from your software, because he knows that he will be able to he will be forced to change his password, memorize it, and so on. So what will happen? He will note down on the password on the paper, and we all know what consequences can this action have. So, like I just said, evoking security is often a showstopper when using digital and IT tech. And I mean on the global market for individuals, but also for companies. Companies which are not really aware, which are not in the security business or in IT business, security is often the last thing they are thinking about when deploying something they have just bought, server, application, or anything. So be it either individuals or IT vendors, it's too often a showstopper. And that's where companies and users and us as prescriptors have to work to raise global awareness about what risk is posed, when you are not enforcing your personal security, your company security, even if you think that you have nothing to hide, and so many things we often hear here and there. So enforcing and strengthening security from the conception stage, so the security by design, is an ongoing and daily task for companies and users. So, and we know, and that's where the challenge lies too. It's also costs time and money to revamp production cycles, to be able to take into account those security measures, even if you have on the market a product which has been on the market for years or months or anything. If you want to revamp this production cycle, it will cost money, and usually company will not do that, except if they are caught in a storm in a major security problem, or like we will see it just after. And like I said, in the same way, a vendor who would force users to define more complex credentials or to enforce security could suffer a business decrease, which is understandable on the short term, because we do not have to fool ourselves, because we know that, like I said, for too much people, easiness and quick of use is a major criteria far above security concerns. And that's where we have to work together, companies, vendors, editors, and so on. For instance, if a company is really aware that they have to increase the security level of their production, of the software, of their devices, we know that if the competition is more permissive and is not enforcing the security the same way, the fear of the first company to suffer a business decrease is really understandable. But that said, in the limited time, good security measures and secure IoT developments, and I think it's my personal opinion again, and I hope you will share it with me, this will become a strong value-add differentiator on the short term, because when we see the digitalization of the world, the presence of online services, the omnipresence of online services, the omnipresence of internet, everything you can do on it, it's complete nonsense to keep going on with security as second or third thought when developing, and so on. On the short term, I think it will become a really value-added differentiator for companies who will be really aware of that, because these companies will be put as trustful digital actors before becoming a mandatory specification. Today, even if people are more and more aware, I hope, they are going on not looking at what security is this product offering to me, how did this software was developed, and so on. Is security a real differentiator for the company I have chosen, and so on. It is not. We are not there. We are not still there, but I hope we will be soon. So, where do the responsibility boundaries lie when you are a vendor? Because, like I said, companies have to find the correct balance between compelling users and let them use and do what they want to do, or meaning, here my device, here my application, here the credentials by default, change them or let them, it's not my problem. If you are letting users do that, meaning that they want to change the credentials, good for them, they do not change it, never mind. If you are letting this option to users, there are strong chances that users will use the weak credentials, or worse, keep the default ones. And like we will see, responsibility can be engaged when major cyber events occur, like we will see in the next slide. So, individuals have seldom enough awareness about a data breach or intrusion event aftermath. Meaning they are hearing that in the press, they are sometimes hearing that on TV when a cyber attack has been big enough to impact big websites or anything you can think about. And usually, a data breach or an intrusion goes far beyond that a simple data heist. For instance, when we look at the attack, the massive cyber attack which happened on DIN, the US DNS provider, in 2016, this is a perfect example of what badly secure device, the consequences of badly secure device can have. So I'm not saying that each infected device which was enrolled in the botnet used to target DIN services were because of users' carelessness, but I'm sure that the carelessness of these users has really contributed a lot in letting these botnets preying around the world and across all the IoT devices used to target the DIN services. Just a few figures for those who are not aware. The DDoS attack was targeting the DIN services at its peak scored 1 terabit per second of data trying to DDoS the services, in which they succeeded because Twitter, PayPal, eBay, and other major websites have been down for 7 hours on 21st October. So such major websites down, it's millions and millions of dollars who are lost, which are lost by these companies, and services which is not rendered to the users. And so when you are a simple user, not really aware of security and so on, you are seeing that and you say, oh my God, no Twitter, no PayPal, no eBay, but that's where exactly we have a role, and we want to raise this global awareness, saying that, okay, maybe you will blame this website, this application for not having taken too much security, but generally speaking, each of these users can share a responsibility if, without knowing it, his device, his camera, or any object he owns has been infected and used without him knowing that to target companies like DIN or other who have been impacted by cyber attacks. So you see, changing admin password as default credentials can have consequences or not, depending on the fact if you are aware that maybe your device will be used to perpetrate attacks or to be involved in criminal activities, like something that we will see after. I'm talking about spam. So there must be a necessary and mandatory step in the use of the connected object that pushes users to increase security of access to their equipment. Even if we know that it's something that users will have some hard time to accept, and I really know what I'm talking about, having such person around me. The expectation we should have about security by design is really in this phase. This phase is really part of the expectations we should have about security by design. It can also be a real engine to bring users to commit themselves in enforcing their own security and the security of maybe not the global world, but a major part of it, a major part of the digital world which is surrounding us every day, and the digital world we are using every day to do what we have to do. This is really the real challenge, like I have said several times, is really to bring awareness to users, and when users will be really aware that security is not an option, it's really something which is mandatory, that we can't live without today, company will have no hard time implementing security measures in their devices, in their software, and so on. But it's a balance that we have to study and that we have to adopt between the two parties. Spam. Even if people do not know really what you are talking about when we say, okay, Twitter has been impacted by a cyber attack because of DDoS, so on, this kind of things is not really, people are not always aware of what does it mean exactly. But spam is something that everyone has to deal with on a daily basis. Even if Usually nowadays, technologies, anti-spam technologies are strong enough to filter your webmails or your company, your corporate emails. You are still to face spam, I would say, daily. And spam, the connected devices are the greatest vector of spam, meaning that, like we have said just before, botnet can be used to target companies to DDoS them, but usually, and most of the time, botnets are also used as vectors to spend and to spill billions and billions of spam emails around the world daily. And this is allowed because, this is possible, I'm sorry, because usually an attacker have enrolled several hundreds and thousands of IoT devices or servers because it could exploit data breach, 0-day, and so on, of course, but often it could also break into the system because the credentials were so weak that it was really, really easy to guess or to brute force. So there again, if editors implemented security by design principles, my opinion is to say that the volume of spam would decrease dramatically. And this is not really a big action just to change credentials and to put something which is will be more which is more strength than only password or 1 2 3 4 5 or dogs or anything you can think about, and we see in the weak password list provided by Google every year. So, when coding, a developer should systematically think usage, functionality, that's normal, but also security. And there are best practices that can be adopted both by the developers and the users. Always these two parties relationship. So the first best practice, it's easy to guess, is really to use strong credentials. Vendor software designers have to design their product to make the users to use such credentials and not to allow them to use weak ones. Updating applications and devices is also the second best practice because in the first place, we know that users are not changing passwords or are using weak ones, but I have stumbled upon that fact that they are also not aware that they have to update their application, their smartphone, their device, or anything they can use. And this second one can also be taken into account by vendors who could push automatic security updates to devices. That's just an idea. Because data breach, intrusion can also be caused by exploiting flaws in software which have been patched upstream, but from users who have not updated their own devices and application. For instance, we at Wallix, for our solution called Bastion, we have always this concern in mind because when deploying the solution, default admin account has to be deleted or the password has to be changed using complex criteria, minimum length, and so on. It's mandatory if you want to use the solution. If you don't do that, application will not run itself. One other way to ensure that vendors and companies take those subjects into account is to go through regulations and laws. And we have, I think everyone has heard of GDPR. It's the buzzword around these last days. GDPR is forcing companies to take security measures to enforce the security of personal data. And that's the beginning. And we could imagine quite the same, something which will force editors and software designers to implement stronger security features in their developments and devices and so on. I think that's quite it. I have a little slide about the company. It's in French. Sorry for English. But we have edited some white papers about that. the interview I have done on our own blog about the security by Zen is also available in English and French for those who want to read it. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any question? No? Okay, thanks for your talk.